Hi, this is Kara from the Special Needs Mom podcast.
And this is Angela from Especially Organized, Sensible Solutions for Special Needs Moms.
We have this heart for special needs moms. And so we thought, you know what, let's combine forces. And we have come up with what we're calling the Purge Party. And you can pretty much guess what it is. It's a party where we're going to come together and we're going to purge or, in general, accomplish a goal, a small goal together. So we have set this for January 27th, starting at 8 o'clock for my Pacific Coast people.
Which means 11 o'clock for all of you on the East Coast. So this is an opportunity. If you have something on your to-do list that has just been stuck there and you are wanting to move it up on the list, you're wanting to tackle, maybe it's a space or an area of your home or a category in your home that has just needed a little time and attention. This is your opportunity for you to be online with us while you work and have access for us to help you answer your questions, help guide you, and just serve you for those 2 hours.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you can tell like what we've designed is just this very high level of support for that project that you just haven't been able to tackle on your own. The thing that we are envisioning is that you get to leave this purge party feeling so accomplished because you did the thing. You started the year off getting that thing done that you were stuck on last year. And so it's a momentum builder, if you will. You can go ahead and sign up. We have a link ready for you. And we are offering this for $40 for the whole experience.
Absolutely. And we hope you'll join us. I think it's going to be really fun. It's going to be a great group of moms of special needs kids. So we all get each other. We all have an understanding of what it's like to have something on our to-do list, but just we haven't been able to tackle it yet. So I hope that you will join us. We're super excited to bring this to you, and we are thrilled to work with you.
All right. We'll see you all there. Hi, I'm Kara Riska, life coach, wife, and the mother of 4 incredible and unique kids. It wasn't all that long ago that my son received a diagnosis that had my world come crashing down. I completely lacked the ability to see past the circumstances, which felt impossible, and the dreams I once had for my life and family felt destroyed. Fast forward past many years of surviving and not at all thriving, and you'll see a mom who trusts that she can handle anything that comes her way and has access to the power and grace that once felt so completely lacking. I started the Special Needs Mom podcast to create connection and community with moms who find themselves up against what feels impossible. My intention is to spark the flare of possibility in your own life and rekindle the dreams that you hold impossible now. This isn't a podcast about your special needs child. This is a podcast about you. If you're a mom who feels anxious, alone, or stuck, then you are in the right place. Welcome. Hello, and welcome back to the Special Needs Mom podcast. This is your host, Kara Riska, and today I have an episode for you just with me. I call it a solo episode. I typically will take stuff that happens in my own life, and I will kind of analyze it through my coaching perspective and my coach training, of course, and I will share it with you. And at the end, I'm going to offer some ways to apply this to your own life, because it's really awesome to have awareness. But if we don't then apply awareness and turn it into action, then our lives actually don't change. So my intention of this podcast is for you to kind of laugh at me a little bit, usually, because I'm laughing at me. Actually, it makes me laugh. This weekend, I went to the mall. That was fun, actually. And I saw all the Easter set up, and there was the Easter bunny, like kind of like Santa, but it was the Easter bunny, and there's the people taking pictures with the Easter bunny. And here's a fun fact. For anybody that follows me on Instagram, they saw this, and you can go over there and you can laugh at the pictures. But my first job in high school, when I was 15 and a half, I had to get a work permit to go get it, was being the Easter bunny. And I'm equally embarrassed and proud of this, because while my friends were looking very cute in their little like dresses and all that, and I was in this stinky, nasty, very uncool Easter bunny costume, I was making $6.50 an hour and they were making $4.25. And to me, as a 15-and-a-half-year-old, this was success. Now, and so we can laugh at this because my friends were way ahead of me in thinking like, no, at this point we should be worrying about looking cute, not worrying about the $1.25. But I was motivated. Okay. Anyhow, that has nothing to do with this episode, but it's a funny story. And so I had to, I don't know, why not? Today we're talking about being an anti-receiver. Well, not exactly. We're going to have a conversation about receiving and essentially giving, but more specifically, we're going to focus on receiving. So this episode was actually inspired by something that happened between a friend and I a couple weeks ago. It was a Monday morning. I was sharing with her the crazy week that I had ahead. You can go back to the episode on the vicious cycle of overwhelm for more details on that. But this was the Monday of that week, actually the same day that I recorded that episode. And I was telling her all the things I had, and I was just completely overwhelmed. And I asked her to pray for me, or she might have offered. I can't remember exactly how it went. But she also made me another offer. She asked me, how can I help you? Can I bring you dinner? And this wasn't a real-time conversation. It was actually via Voxer. And if you guys don't know that app already, get on it. It's so much fun. You can have asynchronous conversations with people. And I find that for moms, this works really well because I'd say like 90% of the time we're occupied, but that 10% of the time you have to talk to somebody may not align with the other person via time zone or like just schedule stuff. So this is a way that I connect with a lot of friends asynchronously, which in my house, that's actually a bad word now because the asynchronous days at school are not our favorite, but in this case, I guess it's not a bad word. I'm going to pause the story and kind of tell you my thought process, and we're going to go dive in deep, and then I'll, of course, won't leave you hanging on the story. So why would I not automatically and unquestionably say, yes, bring me dinner? Here's the reason why. We are programmed through years and years of social conditioning to pay attention and manage what we give and what we receive. We know we're social beings. And there's this rule called the Rule of Reciprocity. And this is not written by any one person. This is something that is evolved over time. The rule says we should try to repay in kind for what another person has provided us. If a friend does you a favor, you should do one for her in return. If somebody sends you a present, you should remember their birthday in return. We are human because our ancestors learned to share food and their skills and create an honored network of obligation. There's like this interweb of indebtedness that allows for the division of labor, the exchange of different goods or services. And this interdependence actually has bound human beings together. Think about this years and years and years ago, before we have all the different societal structures that we have now. Imagine how this worked. One person could give away something confidently, like food or energy or care, and they would have confidence that it wasn't being lost because of this rule being developed. So one could freely give away resources and lower that natural inhibition. The benefit to society was immense. This rule of reciprocation has been deeply ingrained in us ever since. And I want to have you kind of look at how this is operating now by giving you some examples. So think of the last time. You have to go back to pre-COVID because most of this is not happening anymore. But think about when you get free samples at Costco or maybe at a different grocery market. Our favorite locally is Trader Joe's. And they give you a free sample. And when you accept that sample in the store, how often have you purchased the product because you felt obligated rather than actually desiring the product? Or even if you didn't actually go purchase the product, do you know that tension that I'm talking about? How when you take the sample and then you keep on walking? I do this a lot, actually. This is also okay. I should not tell you this story. It's embarrassing. But it's also funny. So I'm telling you. So my husband and I, before we had kids, this is so embarrassing. We would go to Costco and get full enough to not have dinner. I also call my husband the bee. When he would set his eye on one of the samples, bzz, he would just laser in there until he got it. It was it was so awkward. I'm like, babe, you gotta be a little bit more chill, about getting the sample. You can't push people out of the way. No, I'm kidding. He did not ever push anybody. Okay, back to my example. The free samples. That really awkward feeling. Whether you buy it or you don't, the feeling of obligation that you should buy it. Or that just taking the free sample and walking on by wasn't what was expected of you. Or another example is when you get a Christmas card or whatever holiday you celebrate, you get a card and then you realize you haven't sent that person a card. And so you quickly add them onto your list and you get a card back out to them. So you could satisfy this rule. That's a really, really clear example. Actually, they did a study. So there's this book called The Power of Influence. And I'll put the author in the show notes. I can't recall his name right now. This book's pretty old, but all of the things still apply. And it definitely has influenced this episode. But he talks about how a professor at a university actually did an experiment where he sent Christmas cards to a bunch of random people that he did not know. And I don't remember the exact statistic, but he got a lot of cards back because people are like, uh-oh, this person must know me. I don't know them. I have to satisfy this expectation. Can you imagine how funny that is? That some random person sent you a card and that because you're so conditioned and programmed by this rule that you automatically send one back, even though you have no idea who the person is. It's really funny, actually. Let's bring this back around to how this operates for us today. Not years and years ago, but actually today. My assertion is that we'd rather not receive something so that we can avoid that feeling of uncertainty when we can properly reciprocate. It's uncomfortable to stay in the tension of not feeling like you can basically pay back the debt that you'll be in once you receive this favor or gift or maybe even service. Okay? I would also add that you have likely learned to not accept help, gifts, compliments so that you don't have to deal with this discomfort. Right? So there's a discomfort that comes with not knowing when, how, or if we can repay the favor. And so we as humans have decided it's better to not be in that debt, the discomfort of that debt, than to enter in and have that uncertainty. There's actually one exception to this rule in our society. And let me add, in the unquestioned following of this rule. So the exception that our society has accepted is that one can violate the rule if they're stopped by circumstance or ability. So this means, based on both your interpretation and the giver's interpretation, that you guys can both agree that you're falling within that inability or being stopped by a circumstance. So there's so much interpretation involved in following this rule. It's I don't know, the picture that's coming to my mind is the idea of sonar. I guess whether you're a whale or a submarine, it works the same, where you're putting out all these feelers to try to figure out what's happening around you. And based on what you get back, you then decide how to act. So this rule, you're interpreting through the lens of, can I give it back? Can I return the favor that's being offered to me? And if I can't, do I have an acceptable circumstance or lack of ability that I will still be socially acceptable? Right? So this is these are all the things that you're bouncing your interpretations off of. And some of you would interpret, well, let me give an example actually. So when we were inpatient in the hospital for 2 months, I really did nothing but receive. There was not a lot of giving at all going on for me or my entire family. And I mean, the gifts and the kindness that we received actually were the thing that had me when I was questioning my faith and be like, God, are you still there? The kindness, the prayers, and the generosity of other people, so this is actually getting me really emotional, are the things that had me say, well, God, you must still be there. If this kind of goodness still exists, you must still be there. Because I cannot deny that I was taken care of through this storm. If you want to hear more about messy faith, I want you to go listen to last week's episode with Joya. We talked about our mutual messy faith, and it was just a really beautiful episode. So I was in this long, sustained period of circumstance or disability of actually repaying. And so the way that I was able to accept so many gifts is I accepted my circumstance and lack of ability. I aligned with people's willingness to give, knowing that they were very likely not going to be reciprocated in this. But can you imagine if I hadn't interpreted my situation that way? If I would have turned away some of the gifts because I felt like, nope, I don't deserve this. Or nope, I can do this. Or I don't really deserve so much. I could have interpreted it many different ways. And the reason I want to bring this conversation to the microphone today is because I feel like now I can even look at my life where by no means do I have it all put together, but I'm in a much different space than I was 2 and 5 and of course 9 years ago. And so it's easy for me to go back to the default, the unquestioned following of this rule of reciprocation. So really, this episode is about bringing awareness to the automatic actions based on this rule. And my charge for you is just to question it. If you've listened to this podcast for any length of time, you'll know that one of my favorite words is curiosity. So bringing curiosity to watching yourself and how you act and operate is, I think, it is an act of awareness. And when we have that awareness, then we have the power to be able to choose differently if we want to. Doesn't mean we always have to. I have 3 invitations to bring this episode into application. The first one is to trust that offers are genuine. What I mean by this is when somebody says, "Can I bring you dinner?" Trust that they are just offering that and they don't have an expectation of when you should or how you should reciprocate. Notice your interpretation that you have to then be able to reciprocate that. The sub offer or the sub invitation of this first one is to let other people be responsible for their own expectations. So maybe they did have an expectation that you would reciprocate the offer, but that's their interpretation. You don't have to interpret something the same way that they do. This is going to create discomfort for you and potentially them. So the second one is to allow the potential discomfort. Maybe the discomfort comes in the form of uncertainty, not knowing if, when, or how you will actually be able to reciprocate a gift or a gesture. The third invitation is to either follow the rule and like your reasons, or to break the rule and like your reasons. And you'll see either way, I want you to like the reasons why. Let me explain what I mean by this. Oftentimes, when people are like, I don't know how, I don't know what to do, it's because we're trying to satisfy some condition or rule. And so we end up kind of feeling like, oh, it's like confusing, I don't know. And so when we look at this rule of reciprocity, and we like the reason for either accepting a gift or declining the gift, I want you to like the reason. So if the reason is I don't want to have to repay them, I would say, do you like that reason? And again, there's no right or wrong answer here. You can say, yeah, I like that reason. Like I feel really good about that reason. But I would then say, okay, tell me why. Why do you like that reason? Well, if it's because it keeps you feeling safe, I would say, do you like that reason? And again, there really is no right or wrong. But sometimes we get to the actual reason of why we're doing something and we're like, well, I really don't like that. I don't like that the only reason I'm doing this is so that I can feel safe and avoid discomfort. And sometimes you'll say, yeah, I actually really just want to feel comfortable in this. And that's totally okay. I was talking with another friend on Voxer, and she was just saying, yeah, like I'm like super happy just like reading my books and like not going out, and like I'm really happy. And the only time that she became unhappy was then when she said, I should be different than I am. Isn't that interesting? So if she just said, I want to like my reason, her reason for being content where she would be at would be like, because she's going to just accept that she doesn't have to be different than she is. Some of you might be like me, where I really don't like breaking rules. I like following the rules because when I follow rules, I feel like I can avoid getting in trouble and stay safe. And so this rule, the consequence of breaking this rule of reciprocity is that people might judge you. You think people might judge you. I have no idea if they will. You might feel indebted. You might feel powerless because you can't pay back something that somebody has given or offered you. So those are my 3 invitations to bring this episode into application. They'll be quickly summarized on the show notes, so you can copy and paste them to a note on your phone, and then you can actually revisit them. I want to go back to the story that I started in the beginning. Remember that dinner that my friend offered? Well, I accepted it, and it was so amazing. So it was a Wednesday that she brought it over. We happened to have a really long IEP meeting that day. I was eating this dinner with my family, and we were all actually peacefully around the table. It was somewhat of a miracle. And everybody was eating. And just the experience of having a dinner that was made purely from love. It was also very yummy. So also there's that. But and just being able to sit in there in the spirit of being cared for, it was really, really beautiful. And it gave my family the space to just process the day and just to be together. Did we absolutely have to have that dinner? Were we going to like explode without it? No, we would have had some bean and cheese quesadillas. I don't know. We would have gotten by. But the difference that it made for our family to accept that gift was just really beautiful. Do I have the intention of repaying that gift? No. And I won't give out of that obligation. That for me is the reason I like. I don't want to, when I give, it feels better for me to give from desire or from care than out of obligation. If I give from obligation, I'm constantly questioning like, oh, is this enough? Is this good enough? And it's really only to satisfy that indebtedness rather than the spirit of giving. And because she is a good friend, obviously I know I'm going to get the chance to do something in the future. I'm not worried about it. I trust that when I have the desire and the combined ability to give, then I'll give. And I also trust that she is not expecting that I give back. Now, did I have a lot of questions as I accepted that? Because she's a busy mom like me. She's not got like 1, 2, 3, 4 kids. She's got 5 kids. So like to go make an extra dinner for somebody, that to me is it offered me the opportunity to feel really uncomfortable about receiving a gift because I knew it wasn't from necessarily an abundance of time, but it was actually from a sacrifice on her side. So you can see how I actually had to process the willingness to receive this gift. And by no means do I always get this right. This is why we're all becoming more aware. So you can see the power of awareness. Awareness is where we really start all growth. And as we wrap up this episode, I want to put in a last invitation to you, actually. And it's for a one-on-one conversation with me. You know that I've already started. If you've listened to the last handful of episodes, you've heard about the group coaching program that I just launched. Well, it's already started and it's fan-freaking-tabulous. I'm currently having conversations to fill the next cohort. And again, this is a small group opportunity where you can both be in community, but also receive powerful individual awareness, to be in relationship with other human beings where it's real, it's honest, and it moves you out of where you're at now. These would be moms that are looking to create confidence and belief that even with all the challenges that they have, that are very real challenges, that they can even imagine those challenges staying there, but also the possibility of having a different experience, having actual peace. If you're like, I do not see how this would work, like I cannot see past the obstacles that I have in my life, you are the person that's perfect for this conversation. You can click on the show notes. You'll see a link to schedule now. Or as always, you can find me over at Kara Riska on Instagram. Thank you for those of you who have reached out just to say how much the podcast has impacted you. I absolutely adore having conversations with you guys. We will see you guys next week. One more thing before we officially wrap up this show. Sometimes when I'm listening to podcasts, I have the experience of wanting more. I'm listening at the very end thinking, I sure wish that episode didn't end. I invite you, if you feel in any way the same way, I invite you to the Special Needs Mom podcast community, which is a free group that I host on Facebook, where we as a community of fellow moms who listen to this podcast and are experiencing life in similar shoes, get to talk to one another, get to share stories, get to actually interact. I hope you'll consider joining. See you over there.